Hello, my name is Lizzie Karen, and welcome to the channel I've created on my dreams of Atlantis. This is a dream about flying. I've already mentioned a personal flying experience in my episode called The Crook Without the Flail. So, I will describe another dream this time, but it involves travel on other types of flying devices. I will then summarize the types of flying devices I remember from my many dreams. I will start by describing a dream of traveling by air for a specific purpose. I had to get to a somewhat remote place outside of a temperate zone. It was not the location of any university. I know this because it was an ugly place, but I deviate. So here is the dream. The dream starts with me being in a very comfortable waiting area. I was sitting in a big soft couch, very similar to the sort we have today. A woman approached me and tells me that it's time to go. I put my flat crystalline device in my bag and I go towards a door. From the windows that are all around the room, I can see that I am high up in a tower and the place below is clearly Tantal, or as we know it today, Atlantis, because I can see the concentric circles of water and land. It looks so beautiful and clean. I walk from the tower platform into a curved flying machine that's just floating in front of the tower, and it has just a simple ramp between the tower and the machine. The shape of the machine looks like two curved boomerangish things stuck together. It's really quite difficult to describe, so try to put a representation as best I can on the cover screen. I take a seat in this beautiful, simple-looking machine, and it moves slowly away from the tower. And then it moves quickly in the required direction. There are no seat belts, but the chair I'm sitting in seems to hold me fairly securely. The dream then jumps to the location I was going to. I remember leaving the tower at the ground level and walking into a busy hangar type of building. This is a place which is just a stepping stone on my way to my actual destination. I believe this stopover was in fact a university location. I'm not sure which one though. Anyway, there's a small flying device sitting in the hangar. Nothing like the big one. This is round and grey with 3 legs and quite old looking, and I have a feeling of hating to travel in it. But there's a place I must get to, so I clearly must go in this funny looking machine. So I get into this old looking machine with the person who I assume is the mechanical pilot. I do not remember any discussion between us about where we were going or why. She just flew the machine. It goes upwards quite slowly towards the ceiling of the hangar and then moves sideways through an opening, an open area. The journey takes about an hour and a half. It's close enough to the ground to see the terrain, which is mainly snow, ice, and the odd tree sticking through. The area we are descending towards seems less frozen, so maybe it's a slightly thermal area. As the machine gets lower, there are stabilizing, for lack of a better word, wings that expand outwards, and they immediately retract as soon as we reach the ground. So there is 2 wing-like things at each side, and then kind of a flap-like thing at the back. Anyway, I arrive and I'm dropped off in a place where no one can see us, and I then have to walk to the main part of the city. It's dark, like dusk, it's cold, it's wet, and everything is made of brown bricks. The roads, the buildings, the walls, literally everything. I know exactly where I'm going to, and so I just head there. I remember the plainness of the buildings and how few people I could see on the streets. Everything seemed to be going on inside the buildings. Well, you'd expect that in that sort of weather. Anyway, so everything that meant like people, animals. Oh, and once I got inside, smells, lots of smells and lots of activity. But I was not to let myself be distracted, so I focused on my objective, which was to retrieve an item that Uron did not want the primitives to have. And honestly, I don't know how they got it or exactly what it was, but I was just focused on this task. So I found the place, I offered a trade of value to them, and then I left with the item. I noticed someone follow me when I went outside, so I kept walking and I did not look back. Then suddenly they tried to jump me. I knew this because my automatic defense system, so if you want to know more about that, see part 1 of technology, it was automatically activated as soon as a rapid motion occurred near me. I already knew how violent and untrustworthy some of the primitives were, and so it didn't completely surprise me. But nevertheless, I still felt icky, a bit disgusted, nevertheless. The primitive person lay on the ground, physically stunned, but sufficiently able to yell some pretty nasty abuse my way. I returned to the location for my transportation, which arrived very promptly. This time I felt much happier to see the chunky old flying machine. We quickly flew over the area so that I could see that the primitive was okay and they were long gone. So that gave me a sense of relief, even though they were obviously trying to kill me. I didn't really want to hurt them. But anyway, they were gone, so I felt okay about that. And my return trip was uneventful, and pretty much that was the end of the dream. So I have now mentioned 3 different types of flying devices in my episodes. There is another type as well that I've had some dreams about, but I'm not going to address that one currently. My reason for not including it is because it would require considerable explanation. Anyway, the types that I will discuss are all based on air buoyancy, the ability to become lighter than air, like a balloon, but absolutely not a balloon. First one is the gliding device. So this is for personal flights, short distances, and it was a very simple process. So you use the buoyancy device to go up, then you reduce the buoyancy slowly and glide down using a very beautiful cape. The cape fastened around the top of the arms and the wrists and fitted very snugly around the shoulders. Loops on the lower part of the cape enabled you to step backwards to secure the legs if you so wished. And the capes came in different styles and designs, but a feather look was very popular. The rods provided the buoyancy, and the cape helped with balance and direction. The buoyancy rods looked like a girdle, and it was often worn under clothes, and a simple on-off device would secure it. The level of buoyancy was controlled by hand gestures which were communicated to the wrist devices that in turn controlled the rods. The next type is also a personal flying device, but this sort was the sort that would fit a small group of people, maybe 3 or 4. These devices look a bit like a donut with a tripod base. It's the type that I just described as being a clunky old machine that I used in my last dream. The devices used buoyancy and retractable wings as well as a form of propulsion. They were silent when in operation, just like the large transporters, and I assume that they were not operated at a great height, because in all my dreams that I've had of them, the travel was not up high. The large transporters, however, were capable of flight above the clouds. The last type that I'm going to talk about in this episode are the large transporters. So that was the more comfortable one that I'd mentioned in the dream in this episode. The large transporters did not land, so they needed towers for loading and unloading. But if they had to go to an area where there was no tower, then they had no choice but to use other ways of going up and down from the actual flying machine. So that's where the personal flying devices were very useful when it comes to reaching the ground and, in fact, returning up to the device. By way of note, all the university locations had towers, and I have done my best to draw on the opening screen basically what it looked like. So everything that I have described in this episode is from the era of Uran. Not too much actually changed with the technology under Belach, but Uran basically continued his work on inventing things. So later, there were devices that Uran had that were quite different and incredibly fast. So that is it for my episode on flying. And if you have any questions or comments, please put them down in the comments section for me. And well, I think many people do have dreams about flying, and they're really wonderful dreams. And I can't help but attribute this to the kind of flight that one might experience using the cape and the buoyancy rods in the personal flying devices of Atlantis. So thank you everyone, and I'll catch you next time.